Okay, so section 2.7 is called function operations, not function notation. Okay, last time we did function notation, and that was like f of x, g of x, h of x, right? That was function notation. Here they're basically going to talk about how you write down function operations, like adding two functions together, subtracting two functions together, multiplying them together. So they're going to talk about how to do that. So here are the function operations that you guys need to know. Okay, so I'm going to list them out here. So function operations. So there's actually four of them, but they don't have you guys do, at least I don't think so. Yeah, they don't make you guys do the division ones, just the addition, subtraction, and the multiplication. So we're going to just do those three. Okay, so if you ever see f minus g of x. Okay? So if you ever see that, if they say figure out that function, the subtraction of two functions, what they're really saying is get f of x and subtract g of x. Okay? Some people say, oh, it's like distributing. And I'm like, well, not really, but kind of, yeah. But not really. It's not distribution. But you can think of it that way. You distributed the x into both functions. So you got f of x minus g of x. And f of x and g of x will be two functions. Okay, right now when we get into the examples, this will make more sense. Okay. Second one is the addition portion of it. So if they tell you get f plus g of x. So they're telling you get the function f and the function g and add them together. Okay, so f of x plus g of x. So there's that function operation. All right, and then the last one looks like this. F times g of x. Okay, so f times g of x, which would be f of x times g of x. Okay, so f of x times g of x. All right, so those are the three main functions that you guys are going to be working on. F minus g of x, f plus g of x, and f times g of x. Now, they don't always give it to you guys like on the left side. They're not always going to say find f minus g of x. Sometimes they might say find f of x minus g of x. Okay, sometimes they'll be very blunt and say this is what you got to do. Other times they'll put it in the like notation on the left side, like f plus g of x. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do is if they give you guys the notation like f plus g of x, write it like that first and then do your work. Okay? So always transfer it over to the right side of the equal sign. It's going to make it a little bit easier for you guys. So let me show you a couple of these things. You guys have, I think, 12 problems. We'll try doing one of each of the addition, subtraction, multiplication first, and then we'll see how many more we do after that. So here we go. So all this says perform the indicated operation. That's going to be the instruction. Perform the indicated operation. Perform the indicated operation. In other words, do what we're asking, right? Like if we want you to subtract, then subtract. If we want you to add, then add. If we want you to multiply, then multiply. So here we go. Here is here's an addition. Okay, h of n is n plus 4. G of n is negative 4n minus 4. And what they want you to do is find h plus g of n. That's what they want you to do. Find h plus g of n. So they gave you h of n, they gave you g of n, they want you to add them. That's basically all they're saying. Add them together. Okay? So this is what I would do if I were you. Okay? I would say, okay, h plus g of n is the same as h of n plus g of n. That's the same thing. And then I'm just going to write my formulas there, okay? Or my functions there. Sorry, not formulas. My functions are going to be written there. So h of n is n plus 4 plus, notice how I'm putting them in parentheses because I'm going to be inserting them into a problem. So n plus 4 plus, now g of n is negative 4n minus 4. So notice all I did was write my equations in. I didn't do anything special. I just wrote them in. Okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and simplify this. So if I get rid of the parentheses and distribute if I need to, this is what I end up with. N plus 4 minus 4n minus 4. Now just combine your like terms. So n minus 4n is going to be negative 3n. And 4 minus 4? 0. So this is your answer. That's it. You don't have to do more than that. Okay? So you don't have to do more than that. It's just simplify. So that's not terrible, right? You're just writing stuff and combining. That's it. So that's an addition. Let's do a subtraction one. But before I do that, any questions on this one? So hopefully you guys are like, wait, this isn't that bad, but we'll see. So let's try this one right here. Number 2. G of x is surprisingly very similar to one that we just did. F of x is x minus 5. Okay, so those are my two functions. All right, and then I'm going to put g of x minus f of x. That's the way they wrote it. So instead of writing it like this, don't write it down right now. Don't write this down, what I'm about to put. Instead of writing that, because that's normally what they want to do, they actually wrote it this way. They just said g of x minus f of x. In other words, they did the step for us. They simplified it for us. Okay? So I don't have to rewrite it back into g minus f of x. No, I don't have to do that. I'm going to leave it like that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start. So g of x is negative 4x minus 4. So I'm going to put that in negative 4x minus 4 minus, and then they say f of x. Well, that's x minus 5. So I'll put that in a parenthesis as well. This is why putting them in parentheses is important, because notice the x minus 5 in a parenthesis is going to force me to distribute right here. If not, I may not distribute. Okay? So let me simplify by distributing and stuff like that. So the first part is negative 4x minus 4. Nothing's happening there. But then minus x plus 5. And now just simplify and you're done. Okay? So what's negative 4x minus x? All right, negative 5x. And negative 4 plus 5? Positive 1. And I'm done. See what I mean? Like, this stuff isn't terrible. Okay? Sometimes when we start plugging in numbers, people get kind of scared of that. And I'm like, there's an easy way to do it. So that's going to be, I think, the backside of the homework. We're going to do one more of these. Multiplication one, just so you can see one that's multiplication. And then we'll move on to the ones towards the back. So here's one that's multiplication. G of n is 4n plus 2. H of n is n minus 5. And they want me to find g times h of n. Find g times h of n. So again, all we're going to do is rewrite this, okay? So let me rewrite it. G of n times h of n. Okay? Once I have that, let me plug in my information. G of n is 4n plus 2. H of n is n minus 5. And you guys should be able to do this. This is foiling. Some people call it FOIL or distribution, right? So let's see. Let's take the 4n times n and the 4n times negative 5 first. So 4n times n, that's 4n squared. 4n times negative 5 is negative 20n. And now I have to go with the 2. So 2 times n, 2 times negative 5. So 2 times n, that's a positive 2n. 2 times negative 5, that's a negative 10. Now just combine your terms in the middle because those are like terms. Negative 20n plus 2n. That's going to give me a negative 18n minus 10, and you're done. Again, I don't think these are the first 8 problems are going to look like this. I don't think they're hard. They might look kind of weird when they ask you the question, but just write it out and do what they ask you to do. Either add, subtract, or multiply. Okay? So we've done all 3 of the main things. Now let me show you what it looks like when they ask you to plug in a number. Because sometimes that freaks some people out. They're like, wait a minute, what is that? Right? So let me show you what it looks like once we plug in some numbers into the problems. But it's actually pretty easy. It's not hard to do. All right. So we're going to do one more example, and then I'll give you guys your homework so you guys can work on it. And if you have questions, obviously feel free to ask. I don't know. Let's do a subtraction. So they really like g of n and f of n. So g of n is negative 4n plus 3. F of n is 3n plus 3. And we're going to find g minus f of negative 8. Okay, we're going to find g minus f of negative 8. So this doesn't change the way I approach the problem. I'm still going to rewrite it, okay? This is g of negative 8 minus f of negative 8. But here's the new part, okay? I'm going to do green here for scratch work, okay? My scratch work is going to be towards the right side. I'm going to figure out what g of negative 8 is. I'm going to figure out what f of negative 8 is. Okay, this is what we did on Friday, function notation, plugging in numbers, okay? So, g of negative 8 is, remember, you plug in the negative 8 into your g function. It's going to be negative 4 times negative 8 plus 3. Here's the number I plugged in, okay? That's the number. Instead of an n, I put negative 8. Well, negative 4 times negative 8, that's what, 32, plus 3, that's 35. All right, cool. I know what goes where g of negative 8 is. It's 35. Okay? Now, let's find f of negative 8. F of negative 8 is 3n plus 3, but I got to plug in a negative 8 where the n value is. So 3 times negative 8 plus 3. Remember, this is where I plugged in the number, right where the n is supposed to be, right? It's right there. So 3 times negative 8 is negative 20 what? Negative 24 plus 3, what is that? All right, negative 21, thank you. So now I know what to plug in for g of negative 8. I know what to plug in for f of negative 8. It's going to be 35 and negative 21, so let me put that in there. 35 minus negative 21. Well, minus a negative is a plus. So that's 35 plus 21. So that's 56. And that's your answer. So all you got to do is write it out. This is what I did first, okay? I did this part first. I wrote it out. And then I went to my scratch work over here. Okay? So I did first the write-up. So this was step 1. Then I did scratch work. And then I came back over here as my step 3. Plug in my numbers. And then I finished it all up. Okay? So I don't think this assignment is like insanely difficult. You just follow the steps. If they tell you to add, then add. Subtract, subtract. Multiply, then multiply. And when you get to the last 4 problems in the back, they're going to ask you to plug in numbers. We'll just rewrite it, plug in the numbers, figure out what the values are, and then plug them back into the original problem. Okay? So that's what you guys have, 12 problems of stuff like this. So it's nothing terrible. Just take your time. Okay?